Hi, it's Dia. Today I'm going to be using a COPIC Multiliner in a very teeny weeny little point. I don't even know what size this is. I think it's 0.1, and a MICRON, which I think is 0.2, which is a little bit thicker. And I thought it would be fun, and maybe I'm wrong. You should tell me if you think you like this. I'm going to be showing you how I outline my pencil drawings for my coloring books. This is an image from my up and coming book called Everyday Magic, and it's, as you can see, two birds playing with a ribbon in and amongst. I don't know if it's a dogwood tree or a Japanese cherry tree, but either way, I kind of take artistic license with my flowers. They can look real, but they might be bigger or smaller, and the leaves might not be exactly appropriate, but I liked it, so I put the birds in there because I thought that they would fit nicely. So I'm using to outline the birds the thicker pen, which is the MICRON, which is also archival, and the ink is relatively black. Some fine liners, they're black pens, but the ink isn't as pigmented. I find some of the Sakura pens, I order them from Jet Pens. They send them directly to me, but they receive them from Japan. Those have very black ink, and also the COPIC that I'll be using a little bit later has really black ink, and I really like the texture of the point. It's somewhere in between soft and hard, and I don't know how they do it, but I'm happy that they do. I'm using the MICRON, the thicker pen, first for the birds because I want them to be the focal point of the image. I think the entire image is pretty, but the birds are the main focus. Now you can see me going back and forth between the COPIC and the MICRON. There are some little details in the wings, and you'll see a little bit later when I do the details of the face that I want the detail to be very fine and very realistic looking. So I went to that very small COPIC point. COPIC is really interesting too because you can change points and you can refill the pen. So you can have a favorite pen. If the nib wears down, you can get a new one. So that really works well for me personally. I went a little bit over the edge here. I'm sorry. I was trying to be conscious. Okay, so you can see that I outlined, and then I go back for some fine little stippling or pointillism details with the finer pen. And I only used 2 pens for this image. Now you can see how sharp that point is, or fine that point is. I do have other pens that even go tinier. There's a high-tech pen that I use. Maybe I'll show it at the end of the video. I think it's 0.25. It's like, it's as skinny as a hair. And yes, there are areas that I would use it. I don't necessarily think that I would have to use it for a coloring book, because you don't want it to be too fine. I want you all to be able to see everything that I'm drawing. I just finished that little chain around the sparrow's neck, and about halfway through I realized I could have made that a little tiny piece of string and not had to make every single little link. But sometimes I feel like those little details are what differentiates an interesting image from an image. I think botanicals and birds are my favorite thing to draw. Sometimes as I'm doing this, I'm wondering if I'm overdoing it with the botanicals and the birds, and I do throw some, well, not some, quite a bit of fairies or elves or sprites in there. And yes, the book is called Everyday Magic, and I called it Everyday Magic because I feel like sometimes we're in such a hurry and we do so many things, you know, the same old story, that we don't take time to notice just basic things, birds, a candle burning. And sometimes I feel like there is magic in these little basic things, and I always imagine possibly a little fairy flying around and giving it that extra glow or that very interesting vibration that you sometimes feel. And I'm sitting here talking, and I sound a little crazy, but I'm wondering if you know what I mean at all. Did you ever stare into a fireplace and you're just so riveted, or you stare at anything, a bird sitting on your windowsill, and you completely get lost? And that's what I tried to capture in this next book. My previous books were whimsical and fun and very cute, and I still wanted to incorporate a lot of those details in this book, but I also wanted to elevate it and make it seem a little bit more sophisticated and realistic. So I added a lot of these little feathery, tiny details that we might overlook in day-to-day life, but I wanted to add them to these pictures because I think it's what makes so many things special. Right here I'm making those little dots because the feathers sort of soften as they go into the rest of the feathers, and it's not such a harsh line of demarcation, so those little dots I feel help it seem blended. It's hard to indicate white in an image or a light color without either making it look too empty or too busy. Here's the second bird. And there's me not knowing where to start. Again, I'm outlining with the slightly thicker point, which is the micron. I have an iPad Pro and I have an iPencil, and I use Procreate, and I've recently illustrated a history book, an American history book for an author. I can't really tell you more information yet because the book's not out, and I illustrated the entire thing on the iPad Pro. And I try to do these botanicals and these bird images and fairies. I don't get the same feeling as when I do it with the pen. So I'm just going to keep doing all my coloring books, as far as I can tell, with, first of all, pencil, and then I'll go over the top, as you see here, with the MICRON or the COPIC. Then I'll probably scan it and put it into the iPad and correct anything that I mess up. I have to say, I admire people who do this on a regular basis. They actually do their art while they're recording. It's very stressful for me because I want you to be able to see everything, and I'm terrified that I'm going to make a mistake. But long story short, now that I have that iPad Pro, it's not like the biggest nightmare in the world if I do mess something up, because I can scan it, put it in there digitally, and correct it. Oh my gosh, it used to be so nerve-wracking. You know, I would get these images that I thought were pretty done in pencil, and I would stand there with the pen, terrified that I was going to just screw something up when I started, or worse, get almost the whole thing done and screw it up, because you really can't correct it. It's archival ink. You really can't erase it. And if you do actually erase it enough with one of those coarser erasers, you've ruined the paper. You can't really use whiteout because it leaves a bubble. So I'm very, very happy that the iPad Pro exists for that reason. You can hear another plane going overhead. You know, sparrows are brown and gray and beige. And when you look at them up close, they're amazing little creatures. They're so beautiful, they're so tiny, and there's so much going on. And I try to capture that, or at least some of it, in these black and white images that will be in that book for you to color. Ooh, another thing that the iPad Pro is really good for is that it makes you brave. I don't know if this happens to you before you color, but it happens to me, and it happens to me almost every single time before I start to draw a picture, or even before I start to restart, meaning, like, you know, if I have to go to sleep after drawing for 5 hours and then I wake up in the morning and I do it again, I stand there and stare at the paper because I have this weird form of anxiety. It's the throwback thing from, you know, being afraid to mess it up. With the iPad Pro, for whatever reason, it sort of freed me up to make mistake after mistake after mistake. So then I got a little more brave when it translated to paper. Now, why I couldn't just be brave with a notebook or, you know, paper that's not so fancy, I don't know. So for me, it was the iPad Pro. I know for other people, it's, you know, just get a pad of lined paper and just draw and draw and draw, or color and color and color, and you get more brave just because you get more used to certain things. So some of the fear goes away. Also, if you find tools that you really like, I know I've mentioned these pens a few times, but that silver pen, that Copic that I'm using right now, is my absolute favorite. It's the 0.1, and it's like perfect in my hand, the size. And it's interesting because when I draw with a pencil, I use those mechanical pencils from the 60s, and they're so thin, they're much thinner than this liner. So I don't know what the difference is. I don't know the difference between the sketching and this like more precise drawing. So maybe to be more precise, the thicker is better for me. So anyway, yeah, back to instruments that you like. And I don't mean it has to be expensive or super fancy. It's just got to be what you like. And some people say these Copics are a lot of money, but they're really not when it comes down to it, because you buy the one, well, I guess, pen holder, like that silver pen. You can just reuse it and reuse it because you can replace the ink and you can replace the point. And I think the same goes for colored pencils. It really doesn't matter. I don't remember which group it was, I think it was last week, people were talking about Prismacolors versus polychromos. And it was probably split down the middle. It really doesn't matter which one you pick. And some people even like others. I think those just happen to be the two most desired because it's the most talked about. And they're viewed as art pencils. So yeah, for colored pencils, I would recommend just even trying a few if you can buy them open stock, because it would be awful to buy a nice giant set and not love them. Oh, and speaking of sets, I have a set of Schpirerr Farben pencils. They're brand new, completely unused, unopened, and they now have names and they have numbers. They're the exact same formula. They're oil, like polychromos. I happen to love them, and I'm going to give away a set within the next week. So I'll let you know when that's going to happen. So all I'm doing here now is I'm going to finish the top half of this image. And I think for the rest of it, I use the Copic. I'm going back and forth here between leaves, ribbons, and branches. And I'm pretty conscious of each line that I draw, because for the ribbon, I try to make it as smooth as possible, because the edges of the ribbon would probably be either satin or silky or, something very smooth. And then when I draw the branches, I, on purpose, draw, I can't say squiggly, but I let my hand, and I try to encourage my hand to shake and be not unsteady, but a little, I guess the edges look a little bit more sketchy, and you can see right there the difference between the ribbon line and a branch line. The branch lines are wavy and a little herky-jerky. And the ribbon lines I try to make, how do you say this? I try to go as long as I can so it looks as smooth as I can make it look. As I was doing that butterfly, I realized my butterflies look a little like aliens, and I kind of like that. Oh, and I wanted to give a special hello to Gina Troutman out there, waiting patiently for one of my books, the artist edition for the buns, to get delivered. Well, not only get delivered, it's on back order right now. So hello, Gina. Thank you for your patience. And thank everyone else who's currently waiting, because I'm trying to upgrade the paper, so I want to thank you all for your patience. Gina's a member of my coloring group, the Lenihan Coloring Gallery, and I want to invite you all, if you're not a member, to visit me on Facebook. I would love to see you there. So I guess at this point you can see where this picture is headed, and I just wanted to, like I said earlier, give you an idea of the process. And when this is done, I will scan it, and then I'll be able to correct it in the iPad if I do mess anything up, and then move on from there. And there will be more details. I'll be adding detail to the leaves, to the branches, and probably even to the butterflies and the birds, because I fuss with things forever. So if you like this video and you want to see more like this, let me know, because I don't think I've ever done anything like this before. And if you like it, either give me a thumbs up or leave me a comment. Tell me what you think. Or if you'd rather just see more tips and reviews, let me know that also. Oh, we're finally getting to the flowers. I have a tendency to over detail the flowers in my coloring books, so I have to remember not to do that from now on, to give everybody more of a chance to add whatever they want to the flowers. I also want to say that I'm completely impressed and blown away by your coloring talent. It makes me happy to see all the images. It makes my day, my week, sometimes my month. You guys are amazing. So I'm working diligently to get this book out very soon. And if you already subscribe to me here, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You can subscribe to me here on YouTube. I also have Instagram. You can follow me on Facebook, where I have the Coloring Gallery, where people post images that they've colored for my books, which, like I said before, makes me happy every single day. And I hope it makes them happy every day too, to color these images. So once again, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. And cross your fingers that I get this done quick, because now I have some time. I finished a few projects. So once again, I'm so glad that you're all here. And here's my first image from Everyday Magic. And if you want to see the rest of it done, I'll be happy to do that too. Let me know below. I'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye.
And for any of you who were watching before and want to know about that pen that I mentioned, that super skinny pen, here it is. It's the... Who makes this? Once again, I think it's from Japan. Okay, Pilot High Tech. Let me see if I can get it. It's so tiny I can't even focus it. I'm sorry, this is so... Let's see. There we go. So you can see how thin that is. Let me draw a couple lines for you so you can see. Very thin. I can't say it's as smooth as the Copic, but I love it for those really, really tiny areas. So once again, that's it. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.